Welcome to Your 2 Cents, the podcast. I'm Alicia Mccarvell.
And I'm Sylvia Beirnes. Your 2 Cents, the podcast is proudly made by credit unions who are just as obsessed with talking about money as we are.
Self-care often takes the back burner when our budgets are tight, and it leads people to feel guilty when they do spend money on themselves. So we're bringing in some experts in the self-care space to tell us, one, how we can save a little bit money in those places so we don't feel that guilt, but also understanding why it's important to prioritize.
This is Your 2 Cents, the podcast, proudly made by Bicoastal in partnership with credit unions.
I know so many people feel guilty for spending money on themselves. We've been taught that things like the gym, spending money on clothes, spending money on skincare can be indulgent, which often leads to people lying about the amount of money that they're spending on those things.
I'm so excited to talk about this today because we have 3 amazing panelists who are going to help us dispel this whole situation about feeling guilty about what you're spending on yourself. So we have Matt, the founder of Evolve Fitness, Nitasha, the founder of The Cure, and Lindsay, the owner of Habit Vintage, to help get into the nitty-gritty of this today.
So all 3 of you come from a different avenue of self-care. Do you want to kind of tell us how it started and kind of what your goal was behind being in the self-care space?
So I am much older than all of you. So my self-care journey started really young. My mom was always into skincare. So I would always go into her vanity and like try everything as a child. But that sort of started the idea of what is self-care, because you saw someone doing it your whole childhood. But what does that mean? The older I got, self-care I really dove into buying everything, which in my teens and 20s was probably, I had no knowledge of it. So in my 30s, I was like, I'm gonna pare back. What am I putting on my skin? Where does skincare come from? Who am I supporting? All of those things sort of led me to creating what The Cure is now. I actually started with a store in Toronto where I got to meet amazing makers and educate myself on ingredients. And that's where I was like, oh, I spoke to every single customer and you told me exactly what you wanted out of a skincare brand. It doesn't need to be fussy. It just needs to be functional. So that's where The Cure came from.
That's awesome. Amazing. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, no pun intended, but it has evolved over the years. Personally, I grew up as an athlete playing sports, and exercise was always part of my life. And Evolve, when I started 15 years ago, was one-on-one personal training, and I was just trying to help people with their workouts. And now that we have a great team, and I can step back from doing that, I have more time to, first of all, notice what's happening to people when they exercise more, but when they work on their sleep and their stress and kind of all areas of wellness. And for me, again, exercise has been the easy part, but self-care for me really means sleep and stress management. Mm-hmm. And when my business coach in 2018 challenged me to never go on CNN ever again, because I was doing that phone and CNN, things that make you anxious, and then Facebook, and then repeat. Not only was I not going to bed on time, but I was also seeing negative things and looking at the screen, so it was affecting my sleep quality. And I stopped that. I haven't been on CNN since 2018, and what do you know? I don't need to nap anymore. And I have more energy through the day, and those things allow me to work out better and allow me to probably be more motivated to eat more nutritious foods. So we try to teach our clients, it's yes, exercise, nutrition, those are an important part of your journey, but sleep, stress, overall wellness, happiness, confidence, all of that stuff is part of the picture.
Yeah, that's really cool. What about you, Lindsay?
So for me, I started Habit in 2018, but I've been thrifting so much longer than that. I've been thrifting since day one. My mom would take me to Frenchie's. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar, not to gatekeep. Yeah. But, so many great memories of going into Frenchie's with my mom as a kid, and she would teach me, in Frenchie's, everything is sorted by bins. It's all in those big wooden boxes, basically. So we would literally push everything to the end of the bin and then just pull it out. And she was the one that taught me, the importance of fabrics, designers, all those kinds of key things to look out for when you're in those thrifting situations. So that's where it came from. It was kind of more so out of necessity at the time, and then it just grew into a habit. Thanks, Matt, for the I was like, oh, I'm gonna use that.
Let's go.
But so it just taught me, that I could literally recreate outfits that I would see at school that I might not have been able to afford, or you know, watching things like on TV or movies at the time growing up, like just seeing an outfit and being like, I can probably recreate that if I look for the right pieces. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I grew up thrifting, obviously love Frenchies. You just blew my mind with the pushing to the bins and pulling out
yeah.
because I've never done that before.
can't
Frenchies was the first way I learned how to thrift too, and it
Yeah.
was like right around the corner from our house where my parents still live, and we used to go there, and that's exactly what we did. It was in Spryfield. It was in the basement.
Oh
it
my
was
God,
such a
that-
good. It was
I have
just
so
like an
many
OG.
memories
It's an
there.
OG. It's an OG.
Yes.
Yeah. But I do. I have so many memories of going into that spot and getting myself things. That like there was a pair of Gap jeans and I'll never forget them. They were hung behind the cash register when you know it's good.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
hung up.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
It's like
hung
if they're
up
good
and it's
stuff.
on the wall. It's a good. But those were the Gap. They were the embroidered Gap jeans from like I was 12.
Yes.
And I'll never forget saving up my money to buy those Gap jeans to be able to wear to school because all of my friends had them, but I couldn't
Exactly.
afford the Gap,
Exactly.
the actual Gap jeans, and getting those. But yeah, that's the tip. I love box thrifting though. That's my favorite. Like I the hangers are
down
okay.
and dirty. Like, that's the
hangers are
real
okay, but if
thrifting.
you've got to go through it,
Yeah.
then yeah.
I love the
Working
treasure
for it.
hunt. That's
Me
it
too.
for me.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Pivoting to skincare for a second, I have found that skincare and beauty has been a really tough one because people look at, you know, a Sephora package lands on your doorstep or a box from the Cure lands on your doorstep and people are like, oh, look at her spending on skincare. And I think there's this idea that we're supposed to lie about what we're spending on ourselves because it feels really indulgent. You were talking about how your products need to be functional, not fussy. Knowing that people are often judged for how much they're spending on skincare and beauty, what do you say to people who think that that's an indulgent thing to do?
You only have you. And our skin is our biggest organ. So whatever you're putting on your skin is really important. So it is important to take care of your skin. However, we don't need to have like a 20-step skincare routine. So if you have like the few items that you need and like not listen to marketing saying you need X, Y, Z on top of just the good things that you're using, you shouldn't feel guilty for purchasing that, and you shouldn't feel guilty for taking care of yourself. I think a lot of the guilt probably comes from like trying something and then throwing it away, you know? Because we do as consumers like to dabble. So if you are gonna do those sort of things, maybe like buy testers or get samples, so then you're actually not spending your hard-earned money and throwing it in the trash. You're actually, or like give it to a friend if you don't use it. You know, there's ways to try different skincare without feeling like indulgent or like, I guess, your neighbors peeping and being like, oh, what is that person buying today? Like I saw Sephora, I saw The Cure, I saw like a Shoppers, whatever. It's you. And I think everyone here can probably say like, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're doing yourself a disservice, really.
Across the board.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, when I created my brand, it was more so just like give everybody, so like everybody in your household can use the product and just feel really good about it. And then if you want those add-ons, you can add them on, but they're not necessary.
Right. It's so interesting because as you get older, you're marketed on your age also, and then also you're watching the internet and all these things. And so I'm now of an age where I'm like, oh, I need to be thinking differently. I need to be using different products than I did even a couple of years ago. And I am so overwhelmed by that because I am like, simple is best for me. I am not a 20-step girly in any way, shape, or form. Like, give me the easiest route to keeping my face intact, and I will take that from you, even to the point of like, you know, you're looking at like things that you could actually get prescribed from your doctor versus going to buy something that's like mixed in with a whole bunch of other ingredients. But I don't even necessarily know where to start sometimes on making sure that I'm curating versus like, it's about quality over quantity.
100%.
How do you even know, like, what's the first step into that if you want to pare down or if you even want to start building up whatever that looks like?
I think the key things that you need to look at when you're looking at skincare is hydration, first of all. Like, even when it comes to your cleanser, your moisturizer, a lot of products aren't hydrating. And I think that's the biggest thing when we look at aging is that we're not hydrating enough and obviously drinking enough water. You know,
Right.
It all goes sleep. It all goes hand in hand. Like, we're like best friends here because they
We
go
won't
hand
be
in
when
hand.
you hear about
Yeah.
my habits for my skincare.
But I don't look at skincare in the sense of like okay, so marketing tells us as we get older, we need to use all these products. But when I look at skincare, it's just feeding your skin nutrients that your skin needs. It doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 40. My mom's 70. She uses my products and that's it. You know, so if you, again, are using products that are going to hydrate your skin and not deplete your skin of its natural oils, and I think that's the scariest thing when it comes to skincare. People think like, I'm really oily, so I need to like strip everything away, which is not what we want to do. No, we want to feed our skin oils.
Guilty of that.
Yeah.
I thought I was an oily girl. I thought I was, and then I started using skincare for the first time in my 30s, and I was like, oh, you're oily because you've never been giving your skin anything. Like,
Yeah, you're not
your
feeding your
body's
skin.
natural reaction to
Right.
trying to hydrate itself has
Totally.
been being oily, and then now it's completely altered my skin.
Yeah, the example that I always give to people, because it is the easiest one to understand, is washing your hair. We were told to wash our hair every single day when we were younger. Wash, 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 wash. And then we were told, wait, don't wash your hair all the time. That transition from washing your hair every single day to like getting it down to like twice a week is the hardest hump to get over in your life. I thought I was like so oily. I was like, I have like slick forehead. Like, what is going on? This is the most horrible thing. But once you get over that hump, then your body's like, hey, I don't need to over replenish myself. So that's what you're doing with your face as well. Or your body. Like, lots of people don't hydrate everything, which is like shocking to me. I'm like, you need to hydrate your whole entire body. Men need to use skincare. Like, our skin is all the same. We're not different.
This is an intervention, by the way. This is why you're here today.
So when I wash my hair and then use that for my face, I shouldn't.
It's actually so funny because Scott just started using skincare since I started using skincare, and the gap where you're talking about that, like a product that is for everybody.
Yes.
Skincare has always been, I find men come by it honestly, that I find most skincare has always been geared to a feminine female thing, where realistically, so like having that pink bottle sitting on the counter, it was just never,
It's not appealing.
something that my husband was picking up thinking
Totally.
now, like I've noticed a shift in that market too, because men are worrying about that stuff and taking care of their skin in a different way too. But yeah, the body wash and the shower mat, not.
I saw a
three in
meme about it, and I was like,
Yeah.
But honestly, it's even from a financial perspective, I think it's super interesting because I used to wash my hair every single day.
Yeah.
I went through the hump. It was very real. It was a truly
it's
wild
hard.
time in my life. And now I'm like been 2 days a week for years now washing my hair. But when you share, first of all, I got my husband on the same routine. You're cutting down your cost on your actual shampoo and conditioner. So now I buy more expensive product because I'm not going through it as much as I used to. So I'm stretching that part of my budget further, knowing what I'm actually like putting on my head. And as far as skincare goes, now that I've gotten, my husband's the same. Well, he wasn't doing shampoo on his face, but he was using nothing on his entire body. And now that we're doing that together, it's like we share product.
Yes.
They're for both of us. It's something that has become like a household expense for both of us. And now there's he was never someone to like shame me for taking care of myself, but now that it's something that we actually do together. So I think encouraging the people in your life to also share that. It's like, when you were talking about it being the biggest organ of your body, I think about this about mental health all the time. If you broke your leg, you would go to the doctor. If you're not feeling like your best self, go do something about that. If your skin is, it's the biggest organ of your body, why wouldn't we take care of that? And there is a cost associated with it, but I think if you're smart about how you approach it, you can stretch that budget as well, even if it's not something that you have a lot of disposable income to put towards.
100%. And I think sharing products is key, because then you are using your products in a timely manner. Things aren't sitting around and spoiling. And then also just looking at what you're purchasing. Like, you can go and purchase like a big box drugstore brand and maybe spend like $10 on your product. But what is that product doing for you? And then you're spending that $10 every month because you're going to use a lot of it. Where if you were to purchase like a natural brand or whatever, it doesn't have to be natural, but like a smaller base brand, something that's hydrating you a little bit more, if you're purchasing the Cure, you're more expensive initially. However, it does last longer.
Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes we need just to remove the sticker price and see the longevity of the product.
Totally.
Even with, I'm sure, like a gym membership.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same sort of thing. It's just, what is your takeaway from it?
Yeah.
I think one of the best marketing things I've seen recently is Laneige has a sleep mask for your lips. And right on the thing, they have the girl math of like how many uses per the container, how much it costs you. And I'm like, that is my brain. That is where I'm at with that. So I think like products and brands are starting to notice that people are they want to spend the money, but they want to spend the money on something they know is going to last them and give them the benefits. And that shift in the market is starting to change.
Did you know that credit unions were the first financial institutions to ever lend to women in their own name? That they're obsessed with small business and their customers are actually members because they collectively own every branch? Credit unions are truly embedded into the communities they serve, and they love watching them thrive because they know when communities thrive, their members do too. So if you're into communities as much as credit unions are, you've just found your new place to bank. Credit unions are the proud sponsor of Your 2 Cents, the podcast.
For you guys, I feel like that the idea of stigma on spending money on yourself is probably universal when it comes to clothing and the gym. I know from being in the gym atmosphere, and I know from like going from somebody who purchased fast fashion to be able to dress myself, to be able to get jobs, who thrifted through that stuff. I know how important having the right clothing is in terms of like how you feel. So do you guys feel like that stigma exists in your space as well? Like spending the money?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, why don't you go right
I
ahead?
can go first. Yeah, I mean, I do want to rewind because there is the mindset of like free or low cost, but it's like free doesn't always mean free because, but people, it's hard to market that.
Right.
Because it's hard to market the fact that if you get free personal trainer and they injured you, then you can't work out for a year, right? Then there's that time delay for a year, so it's better to invest. And there's many barriers to that too, but that's just very good point on that. And marketing is hard too. I always say like, there's no broccoli billboards, right? Like I know marketing, I study marketing, and there are people with very terrible products that will cost people their health that will spend $100,000 a month on Facebook ads just to make 110.
Totally.
Right? And us smaller people, like our small businesses, we don't have the marketing budget to be able to afford to do that, right? So it's challenging as a consumer because they're seeing all of these things, and it's marketing, not a good product.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a lot of cases, there are many good products out there as well. But for the gym, it really is. I mean, the cliche, like what is the cliche? You can't pour from an empty cup, and it's. Clients generally will not see that at the start, and then they will develop that because they see the difference. Like if you don't know how it feels to feel better, then you don't have anything to compare to. And the fact that you will, especially parents, like parents have the guilt all the time, both money and time, right?
Yeah.
Like how do I have the time to go to the gym? I'm going to miss that morning time with my children or the time after school. That's a big one that we see a lot. And then it's the guilt of, I could be buying my kids things with this money, but then they don't realize that. Or they do come to realize if they make the decision, many don't ever get to that decision because of the stigma. But I'm happier and I'm in a better mood when I'm with my kids, and I'm more productive at work. So maybe I can leave a half an hour earlier to go to the recital or whatever. So there's just
Also just
removing
the time
that
of your life, like having longer to like live and spend with them.
Yeah, to the time horizon is a big one. I'm in all of my life, I think of many years in advance, but it is hard for people. You know, they only have so much time with their kids until they're teenagers and hate them, or however that goes, right? So, yeah.
And fashion's an interesting one because I think it's almost the most frivolous sounding out of all of them, because like we can make great arguments for, okay, it's the biggest organ on your body, we can add years to your life. Buying a dress might not add years to your life, but when we're talking about like the job hunt and all these things, like that's kind of why I fell in love with thrifting in the first place. It was like I can get more for less and really beautiful things when you're looking for the right stuff. But I don't know, I'm just so curious to hear your perspective on fashion, because I do think that there's such a stigma on indulging in the things that you put on your body.
Nowadays, the way that we consume content, it's all through TikTok, it's through Instagram, it's all very fast-paced content. You know, you get what you want to see and then you move on to the next. And it's the same with micro trends. You know, if we see Bella Hadid wearing like a certain shaped like white basic tank top, it's like, no, I need to have that exact brand of tank top, not just a white tank top that I can thrift for 99 cents or less and, you know, alter it to be, you know, what you see on Bella. But what we're running into now is like, you know, girlies running out to buy like $200 tank tops.
For me, I think too, like when it comes to clothing specifically, like the three of you sitting here have, like, in terms of like fitness, skincare, clothing, like, have played a huge part in like my journey with like my body, with myself, with my career, like movement, obviously massive. I've reframed my whole mind from going, I'm only doing this to lose weight, to I'm doing this because I'm going to live a long life if I do, and I don't need to see a number on a scale to do that. And I went from the mindset of, if it's not changing me, then it's not changing me, when realistically everything you do matters when it comes to moving your body. Skincare was the first time in my 30s that I actually took 10 minutes to do something for myself, which sounds silly, but everything off, no phone, no nothing, right before I went to bed. It helped with my sleep to turn myself away from those things. And then clothing for me, I dressed my body to hide for the longest time. I never dressed in a way that made me feel confident or good about myself, but clothing can feel inaccessible to people. I lost my job. I had literally no money to pay my bills. And then I'm trying to work in a workforce, and I'm trying to go to job interviews. And I had worn yoga pants and a polo for my whole gym career that I had worked in. So I didn't have dress pants. I didn't have dresses. I had nothing that said I can work in a professional setting. And thrifting is what saved me in terms of being able to dress the part. But then when you don't see value in your body, as a plus size person specifically, you don't see value in clothing. So thrifting was really a way for me to be able to try something that I might not like in an affordable way. And
Risk less.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no risk.
And I think we forget that like all three of these things specifically play a huge part in like success. But clothing for me, like the idea that I can see something and it can be accessible to me, and I'm lucky now financially, I'm in a different standpoint, but there was a time where I would see those things on the screen and think, I would love to dress that way, but I can't afford to dress that way. And I just didn't know enough about thrifting and finding those pieces. So for somebody who is at that point in their life where they're trying to emulate those things or trying to dress away, is there any like tips or tricks that you have for them in terms of like thrifting or finding pieces that are something they can continue to have?
Totally. So I would say, you know, like don't fall into the micro trends. They're everywhere, but it's just, you know, by next Tuesday, it's going to be gone. It's not going to be a thing anymore. And then you're going to be left with, you know, either something expensive that you bought or a piece of fast fashion that's going to be sitting in a landfill, you know? So another tip I have for conscious buyers, and it's one that I use all the time as well for my personal wardrobe, is, you know, if you see something that you like in a Aritzia or like in a, you know, bigger name store that's more expensive, that you're just like, I don't really want to shell out for that right now, or it's not really my budget. Going on Poshmark. Poshmark for me is huge. Like just going in, adding in saved searches and looking for, you know, different pieces that you've had your eye on. It's such an easier, more affordable way to access those pieces. So I would say Poshmark for sure. I'm a huge Poshmark girly. I love it. I go on it every morning. I'm just.
But it's honestly what I start with now is that I have like the people that I follow, Habit obviously being one of them, but I will go to Facebook Marketplace, Poshmark, I'll go on all your highlights and check things. When I know I have something really specific in mind that I'm looking for, the first thing I do is turn to those places before I even set foot in a store. And I'm going, okay, I need something for this particular event. And maybe it's like more situational than it is like an actual piece. And then I'll look through all those places first. And if I can't find it, then I'll start to go to maybe a more traditional place. I will say the amount of times that I've had to do that is so minimal. And so like my Facebook Marketplace is like tiny radius around my neighborhood. I vet all my people so I don't end up in weird situations. Poshmark is amazing. I've taken Google images of the thing that I have found and like, oh, I want that, or maybe it's not my size, or maybe it's not available anymore. I'll Google image search it, and it'll pull up on Poshmark, and then I buy it. It's my favorite trick.
It is my
ever.
number one tool for thrifting now, because like if I'm out thrifting, I'm like, I think that this is designer, or might not have a tag or whatever, and you take a picture of it and like literally put it in. In Google search, and it shows where you can buy it, like if it's on eBay or if it's on Depop or Poshmark. And it's great.
It's amazing. And then the cool thing is that I've started now putting things that I've already bought from consignment or thrifting, putting them on my own Poshmark or putting them on Facebook Marketplace when I haven't been wearing it a lot, making money off of that, and then reinvesting that in my own wardrobe again. And it's such a great way to sort of avoid the fast fashion thing. So I love like this whole trend of like tennis core. I'm not sporty, but I want to look the part. But that's the first thing I did. I went on Facebook Marketplace. I'm like, tennis skirt. I found one 2 minutes away from my house for $10. All of a sudden I'm wearing the trend. So I try and like find things in that way too, because I think as a first stop, we often go into a store. But I really think that challenging people to think differently first, and then even just like pop into a Frenchie's or pop onto Habits Instagram and look there and go, oh, like the dress I'm wearing right now is from Lindsay's store. I found it probably 3 years ago now, and it was something that I saw and I was like, oh, the fabric's great, the brand's amazing. It's something that I would never have paid for full price off the rack. I've worn it in so many situations. It's sort of like a timeless piece. So I think looking for the right styles too, like if you want to fit into a trend, it's such a great thing to do, but it's also a great way to invest in more expensive pieces. And then I don't feel guilty that I have a designer dress in my closet. I'm like, actually, would you like to know how much I paid for this? And also, would you like to support a small business? There's so many wins, and I think it obviously can't, like, I'm the first person to be like, if someone compliments me, I'm like, can I please tell you how much I paid for it? Because I will tell you my whole outfit is currently thrifted. That comes from having to defend loving clothes. But I love how I feel when I'm in something that I feel really confident in, and I think that's a really important piece. It's the same thing as like all these mental health pieces that we're talking about. It's like that confidence is underlying for everything. Do you feel better in your life and around the people you're in if you feel good in like head to toe, inside and out? It does play a huge role in it for sure.
And thrifting too, like I don't want to leave out the part that like I do that with my partner. Scott and I spend time going to thrift stores, and that's invaluable. Like when it comes to like us going out on a Saturday afternoon and thrifting and spending time looking for things together and trying things on, like that is self-care, and people forget that. Like the act of, yes, sure, it saves time to run into a store and spend, but the money, the time, like the investment in me is also an investment in my relationship and my time for me to like be, you know, quiet and not have other things and those outside sources. And so I think that that's another part that I love so much about thrifting is that
it's therapeutic.
It's
just
so,
going through racks, like sifting through, it's the best.
And again, that finding something and being like, this is it. Like this is the piece.
And it's meant for you because it's like there's one of it.
Yes.
And it's for you. It's
and I love it when people are like, where did you get that? I'm like, oh, I thrifted it. Sorry, you'll never get it. It's got like 2010, best of luck.
Now we taught everyone how to reverse Google image search, so they'll be like, actually, joke's on you.
It is really funny because my first year of content creating, it's the number one thing people ask, where do you get your clothes? Where do you get your clothes? I'm like, paid $6 for that at a thrift store because that's all, like genuinely all I could afford. And I think we do forget, and I'm so passionate about this. A crop top changed my life. And like genuinely, I put the crop top on and was like, holy crap, I feel good. People are seeing me. And it wasn't the crop top. It was how I felt in the crop top. And like the power of clothing for people who are struggling with their bodies and just people in general is incredible. It's a superpower almost, like to be able to dress yourself in a way that makes you feel good in every single setting. Switching to skincare, is there any tips and tricks that you have to be able to do it on a budget?
For sure. I think there's areas that you can sort of DIY your own things. Body scrubs, if you're a coffee drinker, save your grinds, add some coconut oil into it. You know, you have a homemade body scrub. It will be messy, but that's okay. Sometimes like messy's fun. A hair oil, coconut oil. I'm Indian, grew up with rubbing coconut oil in my hair all the time. So in those areas, look in your kitchen. I don't know if anyone does this now, but it's probably like an 80s, 90s thing, like the tea bags. Like take your tea bags and put them on your eyes if you feel a little puffy in the morning. In skincare, the biggest trend in skincare are all these tools. Tools can be like a lot of money, a lot of time investment, something that probably collects dust in your drawer. Like people just love to buy it because they see celebrities using tools. And I think, I mean, if you are someone that likes to experiment with a tool, go for it, get it. However, your hands are your best skincare tool. It's kind of the same thing like cooking. Like your hands are the best for cooking, your hands are the best for skincare. You can use your hands and you can do like lymphatic drainage. You can do all the things that like a gua sha would give you without spending the money. I think in areas where you do want to invest a little bit of money in your skincare are like cleansers and hydrators and that kind of stuff, because you can't really, you know, some people can DIY them, and that's what they want to do, that's totally fine. But I would invest there, and then like your body scrubs, your hair oils, that kind of stuff. Just look in your kitchen.
Yeah.
I love that. Hands, like that's the other crazy thing. I think we sometimes forget, like you can see a product, YouTube it. Like go online, find the alternative to that, because lymphatic drainage is so trendy right now. And people are forgetting that's been going on forever. And it's actually like something you can so easily do yourself. I've become obsessed with like learning how to do that for lots of different reasons. And it's literally everything is like, use your hands.
Use your
And
hands.
I've almost bought so many things because I've bought into the hype of what I've seen online.
Right.
And I think it's like taking that minute for anything. The reverse Google searching, the like actually think about it rather than just hitting add to cart on
We're
something.
an instant gratification. Like I always,
Well,
like,
yeah.
I instant gratification generation. Like I definitely am. And I watched a video last night that said we need to stop solving problems that don't exist. And like it truly is. Like the invention of a tool to do that was solving a problem that really didn't exist.
'cause you have
it was
the
meant
tools.
you have your hands. And I understand the concept, but it is very much like how can I make this faster, better, like in our
Consumer
brains.
marketing.
And it's marketing,
Yeah.
right? It's this tool is going to give you this result. But I mean, if you're not using the tool, there's no result.
Right.
If you have the gym membership and you're not going to the gym, there's no result. You know, if you're buying the expensive clothes and you still feel uncomfortable in them, it's the same thing. You don't, it all goes hand in hand. But like I am, and I see a lot of like beauty bloggers sort of like patting their skin really delicately when they put their product on. And I'm like, massage your face. Because like blood flow is huge.
Yeah.
Lymphatic drainage is huge. Like we need to be massaging, get our like circulation going that helps with our collagen production, all of those things. So if we just sit there, pat delicately and like move on with our day, we haven't done our facial exercise,
I feel like
this
is also an intervention for me, Matt. So, I feel like I use skincare, but I'm very like I have the tools that you so wonderfully called out as being covered in dust. They're saying that I could text my husband right now. He could send you a picture of the tools.
I can't wait for Matt's entire new content is going to be like massaging his face, and buying his skincare. It's going to be so good.
My phone I turned my phone on airplane mode. I should have had an AI note taker.
Right.
Instead, I could just go away.
Capturing all of these things.
I see so many people hide how much money they spend on their self-care because they're just riddled with guilt on how much money they spend on it and so afraid of being judged.
It's actually so enlightening to hear other people talk about that. So we had Nitasha, Lindsay, and Matt all talk about their experiences in their own individual lanes of work, but then also how all of those things overlap together was actually really incredible. It was such a fun conversation.
I didn't anticipate the correlation between all three of them, and there's so much more for us to talk about, so make sure you come back for part 2.
Absolutely. This is Your 2 Cents, the podcast, proudly made by Bicoastal in partnership with iHeartRadio and the credit unions.